So look, Allie, that was really hard work about you harming yourself. And we came up with some ideas. I want you to do them for the coming week. That includes calling me if you get in a pinch and you really don't know what else to do. And please get in touch with your mom to find out what scheduling options we could do. But you know, now on our agenda really is to come to the next thing, which is, I don't know, maybe the way to bring this up is to say several times just now when we were going over yesterday, it became clear that if you had a few more ways to think about things, ways to act, ways to deal with emotions, you might have more flexibility and you might not have to end up cutting and your life might be better. So I want to return to this old sore point of really wanting you to join the skills group. They're at a good place right now. They're about to start a new module. It's a perfect time to enter, and I know they have a spot. I've talked to, the psychologist Cindy that runs the group.
I mean, I've told you before how even the thought of it really stresses me out. I mean, I just think that in being in front of all of these other people, you're the only person who knows about what I've done. And then to be laying myself bare and exposing myself, that's really unpalatable to me.
So what you're thinking is that you would be in a group and people will have, you're going to go over some of the same stuff in the group that you go over in here, and people are going to hear stuff about you like that.
Yeah, I imagine a bunch of people sitting around in a circle and people sharing, and I just don't understand how it's going to help me more than what we're doing right now. I mean, we've been seeing each other for 4 months, and I feel like we have, a good relationship, and why would I need this? I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of extraneous.
Well, I don't think of it as extraneous, but right now I'm just noticing you're really scared. You really don't want to go in this group. It really is, you feel like it's going to cause more problems than it's going to solve for you.
Yeah, that's what I feel. It makes me feel very anxious, the thought of going to this group.
Yeah.
I don't really understand how it will help me when it seems like it will be a bunch of people that are struggling with the same issues I am.
You kind of see it as if it's a bunch of, you mentioned once before, it's like the blind leading the blind, a bunch of people that are in the same position, having the same troubles. It makes it sound like you think it'll just be like a big stew of people with emotional troubles and stuff like that, and they'll just make each other worse, or does it seem to you
I mean, I do get, when you just said it like that, it does seem like there would be some kind of toxic element where if everyone, is feeling negative and feeling negative emotions, I mean, when we meet together, you're very upbeat and hopeful, so I always hope that might rub off on me. But if everyone else is feeling that way, you know how emotional and sensitive I am, I'm just going to end up having that coat me in more negativity, and then I feel like I won't have anything positive to feed off of.
Well, your past experience being in groups, like even when we were talking about yesterday, being around that conference table at lunch, or being at groups at work, or being in your original family environment, and I don't know about other groups, but it sounds like your experience of being in groups is generally doesn't give you much hope that a group would be uplifting or optimistic or helpful. In other words, it might make you feel rejected or like an outsider or dragged down by other people's negative feelings. Is that what it's like?
Yes, that's why I like meeting one-on-one, or I feel like it's much better.
But I want to raise a question about, do you remember that actually 4 months ago when we started, us getting to this point where you feel decent about our relationship was not always where it was? I mean, you weren't just sort of comfortable at the beginning, even one-on-one. You were pretty worried about and it's come up many times, but you've gotten to a place, it took us 4 months, maybe 3 months, to get to where you actually feel safer or more comfortable coming in here.
That's true.
Right.
I think
Okay.
that's progress.
Yeah, it is progress. I think it's really good. I'm glad we have that. I'm a little worried about having to lose that if you don't go into the group, but I don't want
Are
to
you
highlight.
serious?
Yeah, that's actually, well, I brought that up before, but I think that keeps slipping out of your mind. That you and I've been going as far as we can go to really get things moving and get things to happen, but it becomes more and more clear there need to be the skills, but also the way this clinic is set up. That's how it works. I'm sorry, just a minute. The way it works is that these things are set up together. But even hearing this is scary to you. This is like, oh my
I just can't
God.
believe that you would issue me an ultimatum. I mean, this feels like an ultimatum.
It does. Does it seem to you as if you've never heard it?
You have said it before, but I just thought since things had evolved and things
Yeah.
had progressed with our relationship,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't seem to be one to set hard and fast, rigid rules.
Yeah, it's not really my style.
Right, so
But
why?
it is the nature of this program, but it isn't usually my style. But I can see maybe that part of the problem here is that I haven't kept bringing up that part of this discussion where I just keep bringing up about the group. So it might seem to you as if it's a shock, because now we're at a different place than we were 4 months ago. You know, then it wasn't quite the same thing, but now you're probably, I think we're working well together. We're kind of into it. We're trying to change your life. I'm wanting you to get this on board, but to you, it's like, oh no, I don't want to go to this. This is going to hurt things. Whereas I think it's going to help things.
But since you're the one in power to stop our relationship, it's kind of like I either have to go or we have to stop seeing each other. So,
I hate to say that's true, but it is true. And it's a terrible position, isn't it? I get it. I get it.
so that means that even though I don't want to do it and I think that it's bad, or it's making me feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
you're forcing your will upon me in a certain way.
Well, what I really am taking from what you're saying right now is that that's exactly what it seems like. And I can get why it would seem like that. That's certainly not how I think of it. I think of it as just sort of sticking to the original rules and now coming to a place where we need to decide what to do about it. It's a terrible position for you to be in. It's sort of like, you know, you're facing the possible loss of working with me.
What if I go to one and I really don't like it? Does one count, or do I have to keep on going no matter what?
You know what, I'd probably really recommend that, you know, there may be, I think there's some room for some figuring out how to make this work, but I think probably the first step would be for you to sit down with Cindy, the group leader, and talk about it. And you can be open about your concerns. I mean, I'm sometimes the group leader, sometimes she's the group leader, and she's every bit as good as me at doing it. And she's an upbeat person herself, and she tries to create a group atmosphere that has that feeling. People don't go into the dark holes of their personal lives. It's really there to learn skills. But I would like you to sort of have a more informed opinion about what it would be like. I think your fears and your worries are totally understandable. And I don't want you to feel like you aren't doing this voluntarily. So obviously I think it's a good idea. Obviously you and I are working well together. Probably the next step is to talk with her, and because I don't even know if the way she runs the group it's okay to come for one group or not. But if it is, maybe there's a way to do that as step one.
How many people are in the group?
I think there's 6 right now, and the max is 7, because every once in a while somebody's missing. So most sessions there's 5 or 6 or 7 people there.
And they're all around my same age?
It varies over time. From what I understand, because about the group right now, everybody's between about 19 and 32 or 33. So yeah, you're right in the, in the age range of this group.
And everyone faces the same obstacles, or
Not exactly the same, but everyone's in the group to learn skills, to regulate emotions, to manage distress better, and to have good relationships, try to deal with conflict in relationships. I mean, that's what the group's for. It's a class, that's who goes. No, I think you'd find that there are people who aren't exactly you, and you won't learn about all their dark issues, nor do you need to share them. Actually, the group doesn't emphasize sharing your details about what your problem behaviors are. It emphasizes learning skills.
do I have to talk at all? Or
Yeah,
can I just sit and observe?
it's an interesting question. I don't think anyone's ever asked that question. It's like you're unique in this way. You know, I think the thing is that if you do that, you're in the group, and therefore we continue. But you don't get as much out of it, probably. I don't know. Remember
So
that
it's
thing
kind
you
of-
said about the blind leading the blind? It'd be like, how about the group that's blind and deaf, or you know, one who doesn't speak, not deaf. What is it
mute.
when you don't speak? Mute. You'd be the mute one in the blind leading the blind group. No, you'd have a special identity, but I don't know how that would work. I think it probably isn't a great idea. But I understand you would think of that, given how things go for you in groups. I would love to see this group as a place where you had a different outcome, like you actually found, hey, there's some people here, they're interesting, they're emotional, some of them, but they have some similar issues as me, but no one's going into their dark issues. And everyone's learning something together and trying to support each other. That's what this is. This isn't a work setting. This isn't a family setting. This is a class for people trying to get better at regulating emotions. If it could be easier for you, I wouldn't mind it being easier, but it is what it is. It's what we got. So Allie, you know, now that we're done talking about the self-harm thing, and you were really great. You know, we figured out 2 or 3 things maybe you can do if you get in those situations again, which is why we do this. And so you'll be in touch with your mom, hopefully, about setting up an appointment, because it'd be great if we could see if that would help. So now the next thing on our agenda that, you know, we determined at the beginning of the session is that this sort of ongoing difference between us about the skills group. You know, you've known from 4 months ago when you entered the program and started working with me. We talked about it then, that when people enter this program, they enter 2 things: individual therapy and a skills group. And you really didn't want to do that then, and we're willing to roll with that, as I said at the time, and we did. And you and I worked together, and we went through a couple rocky times, and now it feels like we have a good relationship. And it feels like we're on to some things. But you know, even today, when we're talking about yesterday, several times when I'm talking about, well, you could have done this, you could have done this, there's so many alternatives of what you could have done yesterday and in general to change your life. And the tools are taught in the skills group. So I'm going to ask you again to join the skills group. They have an opening. You could be in it next week. We've gone over the scheduling of it before. I think you could do it. I know you don't want to do it, but I want us to get our heads together about you getting into this group and getting started so that we can continue to improve your life.
Okay, so you keep on mentioning these skill sets that
Yeah.
I would learn in
Yeah.
group therapy.
Yeah.
And what I don't understand is why you can't teach me them, or why we can't talk about them one-on-one. I feel like I learn more effectively that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, yes, it was always anticipated or expected I would go to group therapy, but we know each other a lot better now. You know that I haven't warmed to the idea at all in the past
I've noticed.
4
I
months.
thought you probably would after a while, because I've mentioned so many times that these tools would be helpful to you, and they would be part and parcel of what we do. You've brought up this before about me being your therapist and being your skills trainer. The problem with that is that I'm budgeted a certain amount of time to do work in this clinic. And I value my hour with you a lot. I think we cover stuff. It takes a while to cover stuff. It took us a while to cover what happened yesterday. If I also teach you skills in that session, because I'm only allowed to see you one session a week in this clinic, you know, I don't think it's a good idea to split our session between learning skills and going over therapy and whatever's the latest thing that happened. It's just, I've done this long enough to know that doesn't work. So what are the solutions? The solutions are, you know, for you to not learn these skills, or for me to throw one in once in a while, which will take us a long time to do. There's 26 classes that cover all the skills. Each class is 2 hours. And so for us to try to build that into our session will take forever. We've got a great group. We've got a really good teacher, my colleague psychologist Cindy. And so I just want to make it as clear as I can, because it really seems to know, by now it seems negotiable to you. Let me tell you something. It actually is required in the clinic that you're in both this and that in order to continue with me.
So let me get this straight. I'm supposed to do these diary entries every single day.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to I come to see you every week.
Right.
And then I'm also
one more
going to be required to go to group therapy, which is, you said 2 hours for 26 weeks?
Yeah.
That's a freaking half year.
Actually, 2 hours for 1 year, because we like to go through everything twice. Because the second time through is often when it all comes together. So actually I'm asking you to go for a full year of skills training, during which you and I are meeting every week, figuring out where's the best place to use the skills, and me continuing to work with you on your life the way I do now.
So this
is a big deal.
This has been helpful to everyone.
I think it's been helpful in some ways to everyone, in many ways to a lot of people. Can I say it's been helpful to everyone? Then you'll go on the internet, or you know, a lot of people would go into chat rooms and say, has this been helpful to everyone? And you're going to find someone that says, no, this is the worst program in the world, this sucks. You know, you're going to get that stuff. So I can't tell you it'll be helpful to everyone, but I almost guarantee it would be helpful to you if you get in, because you're smart, because you really can use these skills. You've already got some of them.
If
We're
I
just
get in?
building. If you go.
Oh.
If you don't go, you're
Geez,
giving
now
up the
I
group.
have to apply to get into group therapy?
No, actually you don't. You don't. You would, I already know you. I think that you're completely fit into this group in terms of what they have to offer and the kind of problems people bring into this group. So no, I don't think there's any big question about that. I didn't mean to make it sound like that. The if part was, I can't tell if you're actually going to be willing to go. Because you know what? You do have a choice here. You are free to choose. The problem is that if you choose not to go to group, then you and I are going to have to set a termination date between us, because I can only have people that are also in the group, because that's the way the program is set up.
Can the termination date be in 10 years?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We have a waiting list here. You know, if you don't want to take advantage of the DBT program to help with these things, then actually somebody else probably would, and I would like it to be you. I already know you. I'm attached to you. I want you to do it. I can see the benefit. I'm trying to think what's missing here. What's the problem with going when it's so obvious the way I'm putting it?
I mean, you make it sound like it's the cat's pajamas. You make it seem like it's the best thing since sliced bread.
That's probably a mistake, because I don't want to, obviously, like any experience, you never know how it's going to go. So if I'm making it seem like the best thing since sliced bread, by the way, I don't know where that came from, about the sliced bread thing, but
You've never heard that expression?
I know I have. I was just wondering about that expression. Where did that come from? I mean, because what is sliced bread so great? I sort of think if you tear bread. No, I want you to go to the group, and I think it's good for you. I think you'll learn things. Whether it'll be like sliced bread or any other nice thing, I don't know. It might be a little bit hellish for you.
Look, I just want to go on the record to say that I feel like I've been pushed into, you know, a rock and a hard place, and I you know that I don't like the idea. You're wondering why I don't like the idea so much. It stresses me out. I don't feel like I do well in group scenarios, and I really dread opening up. And, you know, I just imagine my only experience with group therapy is what I've seen depicted on movies at stuff like AA. You know, am I going to have to enter, you know, some kind of binding agreements that I will never cut myself again? And then, you know, if I break that, you know, do we get coins for however many days that we don't cut ourselves?
No to the first question and no to the second question. Let me tell you a couple advantages for you to go in this group that you might not have thought of, and I just thought of. One is that you've been describing situations since I started with you where you feel left out of groups, pushed out of groups, rejected by groups, and feel bad about yourself. This is an opportunity in a group right down the hall with somebody I work with for you to go into a group and for us to try to work on what happens for you in a group. This is a different kind of group. You're not going to get into deep feelings, deep thoughts and stuff. You're learning skills. It's a class more than a group therapy. It's going to a class, but you are going to be in the room with other people, and it gives us a chance to work on your issues about being with others in a group, which is a real plus, even though it seems painful to you. It's like, no, don't send me to a group. But actually, this could be the turning point of your life.
What do I have to offer the group? I don't even have any super effective coping skills.
You're not there to be the teacher. You actually do have some super effective coping skills. You're still at this job. You have the coping skill that many of them don't have, which is to be able to control things externally when you're in turmoil inside. That's actually a skill. It somehow gets you in trouble. But that in itself, a lot of people don't have. A lot of people just, if they were in the situation you were in yesterday at lunch, there are a lot of people who would have just started saying, fuck all of you, and they'd be out of a job.
That's what I fantasize about.
Of course, that's where you get going down that spiral to Grand Canyon. But so anyway, my point is that there's other advantages to going into the group, and for the exact reason it looks terrible, it might be perfect for you. This could be just the right thing to do. And the second thing is that, you know, you have these ideas that groups are going to go terrible, that you're going to be rejected. These, of course, you have a history of this, but they're also ideas. Ideas are not reality. So this would challenge your ideas. You go into a group with a fresh slate, go in, sit down. I'm going to help you with this. I'll help you with coping with it. You can come to sessions and say, I had a really hard time in the group. And that's a perfect thing for us to talk about. You know, and I know how these groups go. I've run them sometimes. So I think it's a good arrangement. I'd like you to see the advantages.
What is going to be required from me if I go to the group?
Showing up, being there a couple hours a week. You'll have a notebook that has all the skills in it, and all the handouts. And every week they'll be at the end of the group when they teach you new skills. They'll give us a practice assignment so you can practice the skills during the week that you were taught in the group. And then when you come back to next week, the group will start with looking at how did everybody's practice assignment go. So everybody can review it. So you get to cover every skill in a group, then practice it. And they'll give you specific instructions how to practice it. They're not going to put you out of the loop. And then you'll review it again. And then you move on to the next skills. And you just keep doing this for 26 weeks. And then you've covered the whole book. And then, you know.
Then you start all over again. Because they recommend doing it twice.
I just don't know about that tone in your voice about starting all over again. It isn't quite starting all over again. It's sort of like you take Algebra 1 and then you take Advanced Algebra. Because you've already got Algebra 1, so some people may be starting, but you've already got them. You start to become one of the Savvy Group members. And you take things to another level. When you hear them again, you say, oh, God, now I know what to do when I'm sitting at work around the conference table and I start to have jealousy and envy. Now I know 5 skills for coping with jealousy and envy that help me get through the fire safely and not have to cut myself at night. No, you start to get them down better. You cover the same skills again, but the second time is like, you get it, you get them in your mind, in your body, you get them in your behavior. Changes your life. Any one of these skills can change your life, you just don't know which one's gonna change it the most. What do you think? What do you think?
I feel like
Where you
I
at?
will go because I don't want to lose our relationship, but
Yeah.
I also feel like if the roles were reversed, I would never do this to you. And I also feel like I would never, abandon you, as you threatened that you would abandon me if I didn't go. So I feel a little bit resentful,
Yeah,
but I'll do it.
yeah. Okay.
So I hope you're happy.
We're finishing up with the part about the self-harm and looking at it. We've got several options for you to think about if you can do something different next time, if you get in that same situation. We may involve your mom in something if her schedule works out, if she's willing to. I'm so pleased that you're willing to try to do that. I think that, we're gonna learn something. We're gonna learn something one way or another, right, with your mom. It's gonna be important, And I'll get to meet, one of the originals, that you've been talking about. So thanks for being willing.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see
You will?
how the
You are so great.
scenario ends up going.
You are so great, because you're up against a lot of things, and that's a challenging thing to do, but we're going to make it work the best we can. Now look, we're going to now turn to the next thing in our agenda, which was the thing about the age-old battle between you and me about you going into skills group. It came up a bunch of times again now in today's, when we reviewed yesterday, that more skills might be helpful to you, having more options that you just didn't get as a child because everybody just had perfect control, like how'd they get perfect control? You may have just gotten different genes. You're a sensitive, you're an emotional person, and you end up stuck with one big card to play to cut yourself when nothing else works. I want to build in 100 cards. So that's what you learn in the skills group. So could we talk again about that? Because I know we were at odds last time, but I don't know where you're at now. We haven't talked about it for 2-3 weeks.
I mean, age-old battle is the perfect way to put it because you do keep on bringing it up and
Right.
you keep on harping on it.
Harping.
And
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, well, I'm sure you don't mean to do it that way.
No, I'm just hearing this is how it sounds. It must be real. That it
But
comes across
for me, it feels like harping just in the sense that I really keep on hoping that it will just go away, or I keep on hoping that you'll see that it really bothers me, even the thought of going to it, and you'll just accept our counseling sessions every week, and that will fade into the distance in the background. And the exact opposite is happening. You've been bringing it up more and more. And I just
But
really don't
look,
like the idea.
just to restate the reality of this, Allie, because I feel like this has gotten lost because you and I have been working on other stuff, and I think we've worked through some difficulties. I think we work well together. But there is a reality I stated from the beginning that in this clinic, that anybody who enters into working with me or certain other therapists, part of the deal is that they also join a skills group.